Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is such an exciting video because I'm going to be doing my full summer TBR. I consider May to be the start of summer, so we're kicking it off with a bang. I am very much so a seasonal reader. I feel like the weather outside really affects what I read. For example, I read way more fantasy in the fall and winter than I do in the summer, as you can see from this video. I just enjoy romance so much more in the summers, but in the fall and winter I read almost no contemporary romance. When it's warm, I'm like, I have to read like a cutesy beach romance. Like that's just, I don't make the rules, that's just how it is. I'm dividing this into the 3 separate categories. So I have most of these books that are in the romance category, a couple that are in fantasy, and then I have a miscellaneous category. Also important to point out that I don't have most of the books that are going to be on this list, so I'm just going to be putting them right here. I have a few. I think here with me I have 7. So starting off in the romance category, whenever I left off with you guys last in my April reading wrap up, I had just finished reading Six of Crows and Blue Like Jazz, and I basically said that I was gonna read the second Six of Crows, but first something else was calling my name, and that thing that was calling my name was the Magnolia Parks series. This is the second book. It's called Daisy Hates. I started Magnolia Parks literally like 2 days ago, and I'm already like, I think I'm on page like 450 of Daisy Hates, so I'm almost done with this one. It is so addicting. It's basically like a British Gossip Girl. That's like the only way I can describe it. It's very messy, it's very toxic, it's so much fun. I highly recommend if you enjoy Gossip Girl. This is just, it's a wild ride. I think that there's 5 books in these series, so I'm going to be finishing this book and then continuing on in the Magnolia Parks series. The next book I'm going to read is Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, Daisy Hates The Great Undoing, and then Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. I think Jessa Hastings also has another book called Never, but I'm not going to be reading that right now. I'm just going to go through Magnolia Parks. It's so addicting, so I have a feeling I'm going to get through them pretty fast, but I'm probably going to read those all in the month of May. That's probably going to be like my May TBR right there, is all of Magnolia Parks. I'm actually going to the beach at the end of May. We're going to Destin with my husband's family, and I really, if I'm not currently reading that series, I had to obviously pick up another summer themed book. This is probably gonna make me sob my eyes out, so it's not like very fun in summer of me to sob my eyes out at the beach, but I'm gonna read Happy Place by Emily Henry. I've read Beach Read and Book Lovers. I haven't read her other 3, so I'm gonna read this one. Just picked this up the other day, but I have Funny Story. This is her newest release, and I am so excited to read this one. I've heard the best things about this book. I think it's fake dating. I kind of have had to warm up to her writing because I loved Beach Read, but Book Lovers was like not my favorite book. I didn't hate it, it just didn't speak to me in the same way that Beach Read did. January Andrews is literally like my soul person in a book. I love her so much, and she is me. I'm really excited to read another one of Emily Henry's books. Happy Place I've heard is really sad. I've heard this one is also going to destroy me too, but hopefully not as much so. I wish I would have read this the day that it came out, because I love being on bookstagram and like everybody is reading the same book at the same time. By the way, if you're not following me on there, go follow me. I think it's alymichele_bookshelf. That's what my TikTok is as well. The rest of the romance I just have here on my phone, but I also haven't read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I want to read an Abby Jimenez book, and I've done a ton of research on which one I want to start with. Any of the authors that are on my TBR that I've never read from before, I don't have multiple books on here because I don't want to like go in with the expectation I'm going to read all of her books, and then like if I don't like her style of writing, I don't want to like pressure myself into reading all of her other ones. But I've heard from people that Just for the Summer, which I think is her most recent release, is very, very good and one of her best, I've heard. And I've heard that she has a lot of miscommunication tropes in other books, which I don't like, and this one it's not as much the case. So I'm really excited for this one. So I have high hopes because I know a lot of people really like her writing. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I loved Love in Other Words. I've heard mixed reviews on this one, but I don't really have high expectations for romances anyways, and I always get blown away whenever they're like crazy good. Like Love in Other Words is literally on my god tier list of books that I've ever read, so I don't have high hopes for this. I'm going in with the expectation that there's mixed reviews on this book, but it's by Christina Lauren and I really liked her writing, so we'll see. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I've heard the best things about this book. I really don't know what to expect. I'm excited for this though because everybody has the best things to say about this book, and also one of my most trusted book influencers, Eden, she loves this book. I have high hope. This one is one that I might love and I might hate. I literally have no clue. It's called The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. The cover makes me think that it's like one of those goofy Kindle Unlimited books. Not to say that all Kindle Unlimited books are goofy, but that's just like the vibes the front cover gives me. I don't know why. But everybody says that this is really, really good. I think that this is kind of similar to Ugly Love actually, but hopefully not the step-sibling trope. Like, I'm not expecting to give it 5 stars, but she's like good. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted one of those. And I've never read anything by Liz Tom Ford. Putting up to chance. Might love Liz Tom Ford. Might hate her writing and never want to pick another book up by her again, but we'll see. The last one in the romance category is Flawless by Elsie Silver. I think this is a small town romance because this is a part of the Chestnut Springs series by her. Never read anything by Elsie Silver. I've heard a lot of people love this series. Again, there's a lot of tropes that I've never read before. I've never read small town romance, but I feel like it's always cute. Like, when it's done right, it's so cute. This is kind of an experiment period and season of my life because I feel like now that I've gotten through a lot of like my I need to read this like series and just books in general, or like bigger books, I feel like now I'm in the time in my life where I'm more like experimenting. I'm like, oh, do I like westerns? Do I like rom-coms? I don't like rom-coms. You know, do I like this author? Like, I'm just trying out a lot of different stuff. So let me know if you guys have read any of these romance books. That is it for that category. Okay, moving on to the fantasy category. I actually am going to start with one that I didn't put on my list, and I actually don't even know where it is right now, but I do own it. I just don't know where I put it at the moment. But it is Crooked Kingdom, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. I loved Six of Crows. I just put this in my April reading wrap-up video. I absolutely adored it. I gave it 4.5. I have heard that the second book's better. I don't know how, because the first one was so good, but I didn't give it 5 stars, so still has some wiggle room there. I love Leigh Bardugo's writing. She's such a phenomenal YA fantasy author. Highly recommend reading Six of Crows if you never have, but that's the first on my list. I just completely forgot about it. We'll probably actually end up reading that at some point this month or like early June. I do want to finish the series and like potentially move on to Shadow and Bone like in the fall. The next book I have is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this is by Heather Fawcett. I originally was gonna save this for fall, but then I found out that it's like spring summer vibes. So I was like, perfect, putting it on the summer TBR. So don't have a lot of fantasy on here. Look how pretty this cover is. It's literally so gorgeous. My friend Emily on BookTok, I feel like I mention her all the freaking time. She probably doesn't even know that I mentioned her on here, but I get so many recs from her because we have such similar taste in books, specifically fantasy books. And so she read this, absolutely loved it. And the way that she was describing it, a lot of times she'll like put quotes on her TikToks, and a lot of the quotes that I saw in here, I believe that this is a romance, like very fantasy but also romance as well. And just like the quotes that she pulled from this book, I fell in love with it. And also obviously the cover is gorgeous. So I'm excited to read this. I really have no clue what this is even about. I'm learning just as much as you right now. A professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark fae magic, friendship, and love in the start of a heartwarming and enchanting new fantasy series. Perfect. Okay, next up, Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. Also, Eden recommended this on TikTok. I kind of mentioned this in one of my hauls, but she really liked the first part of this and didn't like the second part as much as the first part. So it's kind of like at the end of my TBR for summer for fantasy. Like, I definitely want to read this, but it's also like fairly thick, 550. So I feel like whenever I am in the mood for like a big chunky fantasy, I'll definitely whip this out. Like maybe if it's raining someday, or like just kind of like one of those cozy days. I feel like I like to read big fantasy books or series whenever I'm cozy, and that just tends to happen less whenever it's summer. So this is on the TBR. I think this is probably bottom of the priority list TBR, but it's still there, still there. So I might read it, we'll see. Let me know if you guys have read this and liked it, because I really haven't heard a ton of people talk about this one. But I do know that it's adult. Okay, again, the rest of these are gonna be on my phone. Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I read Powerless and didn't like it that much. I gave it a 3.5. A lot of it though was the beginning of the book. I felt like the writing wasn't as good. The plot wasn't as good. It was very repetitive. It was very trope heavy, but I feel like towards the end of the book, it started getting a lot more original and also like better writing. I do really love Lauren, like the way that she's on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. She seems so sweet. She was so young when she wrote that book, and she's talked in podcasts about how her writing's improved and that she feels like a lot of things she wish she would have done differently with Powerless. So I have really high hopes for Reckless, just because like I really am excited to see her progress as an author. So I'm excited for that. I think it comes out July 2nd, so I'll definitely be reading that when it comes out. Sisters of Sword and Song. This is by Rebecca Ross. I don't think this is a duology. I think that this is a standalone. It looks so cute. Like, it literally just looks so cute, and Rebecca Ross is one of my favorite authors, so this is on the TBR. The Mistborn trilogy, again, it's on the TBR. I don't know if I'm gonna get to it because, again, I feel like I have to be cozy to read fantasy, specifically if it's like a series like that and it's not like as fun and fairy, it's more like fantasy. I'm excited to read it. I think I'm gonna read it with my brother, so it probably depends on whenever he's ready to read it, but it's always on the TBR. It's like the lingering series on the TBR because I am kind of just waiting for my brother to give me the go ahead and say, all right, I'm ready to read this. Finally, last thing on the fantasy category is I'm going to do a reread of Cruel Prince. Will I end up doing a full series reread? You never really know with me. I love Cruel Prince so much, but a lot of times I never really know if I love something because I really love it and it's that good, or if I'm just remembering it that good because it was one of my first series that I read getting back into reading after going like a couple years without reading. I'm not really sure. I love Cruel Prince though. I am such a Cruel Prince fiend, but also because I love true enemies to lovers, like whenever they actually hate each other's guts and then end up falling in love. Delicious. Okay, finally, this is the miscellaneous category, so this is a couple different genres that are in here. The first one, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and this is by Holly Jackson. I don't typically read thrillers. I think this is a YA thriller. A couple of people that I've talked to really enjoyed this book. I'm always a little bit hesitant to read thrillers just because they're so hit or miss for me. I love The Silent Patient. Didn't really like The Housemaid by Frida McFadden because her writing was so plain to me. I was so bored. So I'm excited to read this. I don't know when I'm gonna read it. I feel like this is gonna have to be a mood read. Like if I'm really like in the mood for a thriller, I'll probably pick it up. But I have heard good things from some people, but I've also heard not great things, so I feel like this is gonna be a toss-up. The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. I at one point really wanted to read everything written by C.S. Lewis because I loved Narnia as a kid and I really like Mere Christianity. I thought it was so good, so I really wanted to read all of his works, and I've also read Screwtape Letters, so that's like the next one up on my list. Again, this is gonna be one of those where it's gonna be a mood read. I think currently I'm waiting for that one on Libby, so probably just whenever I receive it on Libby, I'll probably start listening to it on audiobook, but that's like a random one thrown in there. And then last one in the miscellaneous category is Scythe. This is dystopian and I've heard really good things about this one. I picked this up at my used bookstore and it's just been sitting around, and I feel like, again, all of these in the miscellaneous category are going to be ones where it's just going to be me like getting in the right headspace or the right mood to read one of these genres, and then these are just the ones that I've picked for that mood. I love a good dystopian. I'm really excited to read this. I haven't read a dystopian in a while, so I kind of don't even know what to expect. Let me know your summer TBR. Let me know if we have some in common, and also let me know if you've read any of these and you liked them or didn't like them. I want to know it all, so leave it down below. I love you guys and I hope you have a great day. Bye.